Today on KAM Biology, we'll be learning about cellular respiration and photosynthesis. Starting out with cellular respiration, we can divide it into two stages, one being anaerobic, which does not include oxygen, and one being aerobic, which requires oxygen. Anaerobic includes glycolysis and fermentation, because both of these reactions do not need oxygen. Glycolysis has a main purpose of breaking down glucose to make two pyruvates, and it occurs in the cytoplasm. The result of this reaction is 4 ATPs and 2 NADHs. Now, there's a net result of 2 ATPs because 2 are used up in the process of glycolysis and 2 NADHs. And as you can see in this diagram of glycolysis, there are 6 carbon molecules that are broken down into 3 each, which forms a pyruvate. And ATP is used in this reaction because the lysis part of the word glycolysis requires energy because there is a breakdown. Now, if there's no oxygen present in a cellular respiration reaction, then it is known as fermentation. And the purpose of fermentation is to break down glucose when no oxygen is available. This occurs when there is oxygen deprivation. Maybe if you've ran too much, then you don't have enough oxygen in your muscles, and fermentation will occur. It can also occur when certain microbes need it, and it can also occur when there are not the correct enzymes for respiration available. Now, lactic acid fermentation has a purpose to regenerate NAD so glycolysis can continue in a cell. Its process includes pyruvic acid joining with NADH to form lactic acid and NAD+. This is done usually during intense exercise, as I said before, when your muscles need energy but do not have the capacity, when your lungs do not have the capacity to get the oxygen supply soon enough. And as you can see in this lactic acid diagram, how it occurs, and this is what would be going on in your muscles at this time. There's also a process of fermentation known as alcoholic fermentation, and this is used in yeast and other microorganisms, and it has a pyruvic acid and an NADH that yields to alcohol, carbon dioxide, and NAD+. And it is used the same when alcohol is used to ferment in plants to make alcoholic beverages. And as you can see in the alcoholic fermentation diagram, it is similar to lactic acid fermentation. However, it yields alcohol and is a slightly different process.
We will now learn about the aerobic part of cellular respiration. This includes the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain, which will be referred to as the ETC. So the Krebs cycle, what is it? It was named after Eugene Krebs. You can also call it the citric acid cycle because it does deal with citric acid. And so it needs oxygen because it's aerobic. Aerobic means needs oxygen. Anaerobic is without oxygen, so aerobic is with oxygen. So what happens? So acetyl-CoA is produced and it enters the cycle. Acetyl-CoA is a 3-carbon molecule. Pyruvic acid that is produced from glycolysis also enters and is broken down. And these two are broken down and formed into carbon molecules with 6 carbons, 5 carbons, 4 carbons, 3 carbons in a cyclical process forming the Krebs cycle. So it's a cycle, so it happens over and over, and the reactants become products, which become reactants, and it goes in a cyclical fashion. So this produces ATP, our energy source of the cell, adenosine triphosphate. It also produces FADH and NADH, which will be used as the electron carriers in the ETC, the electron transport chain. So this whole thing takes place in the mitochondria. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and a byproduct is carbon dioxide. So CO2, carbon dioxide, is a result of the Krebs cycle.
So continuing on with aerobic respiration, we're going to talk about the electron transport chain. The electron transport chain, or the ETC, is where the majority of the energy from cellular respiration is made. So the purpose of the ETC is to convert NADH and FADH2 to ATP. It does this by sending the hydrogens across the membrane, which is the cristae of the mitochondria, creating a gradient. The location of the ETC is in the inner membranes of the mitochondria. The products of the ETC include ATP and water as a byproduct. So how ATP is created in the electron transport chain is that ATP is created because of the hydrogen gradient on either side of the membrane. The hydrogen gradient is higher on one side of the membrane, so as the electrons pass along the chain, the hydrogens are pushed across the membrane through ATP synthase, which is a process called chemiosmosis. This process creates ATP. Oxygen in this chain is the final electron acceptor, which is how water is made. And here is a diagram of the electron transport chain. And you can see the hydrogen gradient that is occurring, as well as the movement across ATP synthase, which is creating the energy. In total so far, we have created 34 to 36 ATP. We have created 2 in glycolysis, 2 in Krebs cycle, and 30 to 32 ATP in the electron transport chain. And water and carbon dioxide have been our byproducts. Now for a quick overview of photosynthesis, a model of photosynthesis is the one seen before you. Photosynthesis includes the light-dependent reactions and the light-independent reactions, just like cellular respiration has anaerobic and aerobic processes. In photosynthesis, glucose is made, which then goes into cellular respiration. So therefore, photosynthesis has to happen at a faster rate than cellular respiration, so that cellular respiration has something to break down into energy. So that's a quick overview of cellular respiration and photosynthesis. Thank you.